Hi, I'm Kirby Allison, and welcome to this episode of Cigar Keep. Today we're in beautiful Brittany, France. I'm here on holiday with my good friend Richard Meyrat at his beautiful manoir that you can see behind us. And Richard is one of my dear closest friends from Dallas. Probably in Dallas, the one I smoke cigars with more than anyone else. And here we are together in Brittany on holiday with our families doing what it is we enjoy, which is a great conversation, great cigar, and today, a beautiful location. So thanks for having us. And I thought maybe we'd open a little bit by, kind of helping us set the scene. I mean, where are we? We've got this beautiful house behind us. We've got, I think, 30 of us from Dallas here. It's been a fantastic week. But talk to us a little bit about this project so that everyone watching this video can kind of understand where we are right now.
Well, right now we're actually in northern France. We're right by the English Channel. So our nearest neighbor is England on the other side. This is called Brittany, France. And historically, the reason why it's called Brittany is a little bit of an extension of England. Actually, people from the Celtic regions, basically the Cornwall region, basically moved to this area, occupied this area. In fact, people still speak Breton, which is a Celtic language. So just very similar kind of weather as England. Except you're in France, and you get the benefits of French culture.
French baguette, that's right.
And but we are here. Basically, this place was built around 1400s. Yeah. And in 1400s, this was actually part of England.
Okay.
Actually. So this is where the French and the English, everybody's watched the Monty Python movies. And this is where there was a bunch of battles and stuff going on changing hands between the two countries. Yeah. So you see a lot of English influence here, a lot of Celtic influence here. This is just a very, very idyllic place.
Yeah, what's beautiful. And you've spent the better part of 3 years really renovating and restoring the property.
Yeah.
And so, what you see right now, although, of course, the stones haven't moved, as you described, in centuries, quite a significant amount of work went into the grounds and renovating the interior of the castle. And whenever you and your family aren't here, maybe during the summer, you're actually renting it out as an Airbnb.
Yes, exactly. So when we acquired this place, this was a place that was going to be a place for the family, friends to really unite during the summers and maybe holidays. And what we realized, as everyone any homeowner for these type of residents, that this place really needs to be used frequently. All right. I always kind of make it equivalent. It's just like kind of your morning constitution. Every human being has to move their bowels regularly and has to do the usual daily things to, have a certain amount of upkeep. Well, these places, we have to use it regularly throughout the year. And so this is where we've decided that we needed to kind of rent it out and for people who want to experience this beautiful area. And so, we spent a lot of time basically redoing the entire manoir. In particular, we also redid the kitchen to create an environment that a chef could come in and cook dinners like we've been doing every day here for the last week for about 30 to 40 people. Yeah. And so it's been a real nice
Well, it's been great. We've got another good friend who's really quite an acclaimed chef that's joined us from Dallas, Laurent, who's been really spoiling us with fantastic food. Last night we had a nice little concert.
Yes.
And then, of course, being here in the country, it's been fantastic for the children to there's been like a no electronic device policy. They've just been running. There's horses, bicycles. And for us adults, there's been plenty of time to enjoy a nice cigar, a nice libation, maybe some cognac. Here together.
Well, what we're trying to do, you and I talk about this, is the recreation of the salon in the 19th century, end of the 1800s, where intellectuals, people would gather and listen to music, share, discussions of interesting topics, and basically just kind of savor moments together in a beautiful kind of environment. And so obviously, salon was very popular in Paris, but also equally popular in the countryside, where you could get together and really have everybody participate in kind of the intellectual exchange of ideas.
In some ways, you could say it was almost more important than countryside because there was less to do, right? So inherently, people were entertaining at home, and this is where great wine, great food, and great company really kind of come together at its genesis.
Absolutely. And when you think about just about human beings and their ideas of relaxation, what do we want to do? We want to get away from it all. We want to get away from the stress. And basically enjoy the five senses, right? Taste, right? Touch, hearing, all those type of things.
Yeah.
And I think that this is what we're recreating here.
Yeah.
So yesterday we talked about, we had a jazz pianist and a jazz singer and playing some of the standards, and then during that moment eating a beautiful chef-driven meal, and then drinking just an amazing wine from France.
Yeah,
particularly, absolutely. I think we were drinking some Burgundy.
Yeah,
which very enjoyable.
You don't have to go far here in France.
You don't have to go far to enjoy that, and don't pay near as much.
Yeah,
and then finish off the night with what?
Cigar.
A nightcap called a cigar.
That's right. Yeah. Well, a good friend of mine, once said that the greatest luxury in life is sharing one's passions with others. You, Richard, of course, have a tremendous passion for French culture and all things French, and you've certainly been sharing it with us in a very generous way this week. But I think that, one of my passions, of course, have been cigars. And I think that, one of the things I've enjoyed so much about our friendship is the fact that, of all my friends in Dallas, you're the only one on a random night I can call to come over to the house or maybe go over to your house to enjoy a cigar. Well, and, last year, you had your first trip to Cuba together. We had a personal trip together. And I thought it would be interesting to have you as someone who, isn't, you certainly are an appreciator of great cigars and fine things. You're certainly an aesthete. Very aesthetically inclined. But I wouldn't necessarily, describe you as a connoisseur of cigars. You're not a collector, maybe in the same way that I am. And so it's been interesting to kind of see, your journey. And me sharing, cigars, Cuban cigars with you, and then kind of the way that you've kind of responded to that. So talk a little bit about, maybe our last trip to Cuba, because I think it was an interesting, it's almost impossible to fully appreciate a Cuban cigar without traveling to Cuba. And I think that moment for you really in some ways kind of helped really root, the preeminence of a Cuban cigar.
Okay, so I'm going to start with this. So I'm a connoisseur of wines. Mm-hmm. I grew up in France. And I think there's a lot of similarities between my experience with Cuban cigars and your experience with wine, let's be honest here. So when I got to know you first, where, you're talking about, New World wines, like California wines, all these, South American wines. And I would tell you on a regular basis that just French wines, there's just something about them that just separates them from the others, There's just a complexity of notes. There's a little less fruit-forward kind of palate, and I think that when you went to France, you got it. When people come to France and they drink the wine, they're like, "What's going on here? Why don't we get the stuff in the United States?" Well, same thing with Cuban cigars, right? Yeah. I remember we'd go around the United States. Particularly, we've gone to Florida, where we smoked some Dominican Republic, cigars from Dominican Republic, Nicaragua, and at the time, I thought they tasted pretty good. I thought, well, what's up with these Cuban cigars, If you don't want to become a snob, don't go to Cuba. I guess that's what I would say. Right. And so I went to Cuba, and never been there, just like most people, and didn't know what to expect. Honestly, I just expected to really maybe be disappointed, because I was thinking, well, these guys, they're probably just making the same cigars as everywhere else. And, boy, was I wrong. We went there smoking morning, afternoon, or lunch, dinner, and then nightcap. Yeah. And there is undoubtedly a complete difference between a Cuban cigar and a New World cigar. I guess that they would call it a non-Cuban cigar, non-Cubana. And that could not have been made more obvious when we went one night, and we were treated with a competing origin of Dominican Republic cigars that are very highly touted, and it was just not even a discussion. It's like we couldn't even finish the cigars. We were, as everybody else was smoking their Cuban cigars, we were like,
trying to.
How can we hide those cigars and smoke the Cuban cigars?
Yeah. Well, there's an interesting parallel between Cuban cigars and French wine. Because there is a cultural component that the product cannot be divorced from and considered without. In France, of course, the winemaking tradition stretches back literally centuries, right, millennia.
Burgundy.
And there's a wine consumption element to the culture that is also very important in terms of reinforcing that. I mean, the French are proud of their wine in the same way that the Cubans are proud of their cigars.
Absolutely.
And that pride, I think, certainly has an impact on the cultivation and, the tradition of winemaking or cigar rolling.
So I absolutely agree with you. We talk about this all the time. This is where you start kind of realizing how important culture is in backing up a product. Mm-hmm. And if you got... So let's just talk about the two cigar makers, and this is very true, I think, with winemakers, right? You got in Cuba the people who are rolling your cigars are people who are smoking cigars since they were very young people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. They smoke while they're working.
Yep, they smoke while they work it. I will always remember we went to some of these cigar factories where they're rolling the cigars, and you could just see culturally in their blood. It's cigar making. They know what they're making. Yeah. They know exactly what to expect. They know what it should taste like. And I always remember there was this one guy with a cigar, and he was just rolling. And there was this, how would I say? The cigar was just in his mind, in his blood, as he was making the cigar every day.
Yeah.
And you go to another cigar factory in another country, and a lot of those people don't even smoke cigars. Mm-hmm. Those people don't even grow up with cigars.
Yeah.
And so you don't have that cultural backing of making a very unique product. And that's the same thing in France. The guys who are probably picking off the grapes are guys who are drinking wine every night with their family.
Yeah.
And there's a pride, there's a culture that drives that higher level of quality.
I describe it as there's almost two different layers to that, right? There is a cultural tradition, that is cultural. I mean, it's bigger than any single individual.
Absolutely.
But there's also a family tradition, because in France, of course, in the winemaking regions, people that have been in the winemaking industry have been in the winemaking industry for generations. And I'm not just talking about the families that own the chateaus. Even the people that are picking the grapes and cultivating the land are carrying on a specific family tradition.
Absolutely.
And, of course, in Cuba, which is the birthplace of the cigar, right? Whenever the Spanish discovered it, with Christopher Columbus, one of their first exports actually that predates sugar was tobacco. And very early on, they started rolling them into, cigars. And so that tradition, again, of cultivating and making cigars, producing them, is several centuries old. And you can't argue that there's not a difference between something that's been a part of the culture that long versus, say, in, other domains of origin, a few decades.
Well, I always make this analogy. You cannot have a quality product with a certain amount of required time for trials and tribulations, for perfecting something. So you can't make a baby in less than 9 months. You can't make a great Bordeaux in less than 3 years.
Yeah,
Okay. And I think that traditions such as cigar making, wine making, I mean, we go on and on and on. We went to Austria just last week, and the creation of Wiener Schnitzel probably took maybe centuries to perfect it. And got it down.
Yeah.
But these are things that I find is what honestly makes me very positive about the future. I'm going to kind of change a little subject to something a little bit more timely is the AI. The whole AI revolution. Everybody's freaking out. But is AI going to ever like smoke a cigar and talk to you about whatever pops out of a cigar smoke, or and say, you know what, this is a great cigar.
No.
AI will never be able to tell you how nice.
Yeah.
Will they be able to talk about the draw and how it, because we all know this is very personal.
Yeah.
And yet, can AI really share an aesthetic experience?
Yeah.
And this is where, guys, we're going to be okay.
Yeah. That's right.
When all the electrical stuff goes out, we go around a fire. Hey, you got a cigar.
Yeah.
You got a nice glass of wine. We get to the basics.
Yeah.
And we're like, all right, we're back to being humans.
Yeah. I think that, with the AI kind of argument, there's no question AI will, eliminate certain jobs, and do certain things that other people can do. But the one thing AI will never be able to replicate is art. Because art is the product of a human endeavor.
Absolutely.
Right? It's a product of humanity. And, again, I go back to Cuban cigars, which are totalmente a mano. They're completely handmade, right? The cultivation of the tobacco is the same in New World versus Cuba. But you walk into a cigar factory and it's not the same. Because they've got the little Librador machine that kind of helps roll the tobacco. It's not totalmente a mano.
Yeah.
And it's that human element of a Cuban cigar being completely the product of hands.
How about this? There's an emotional component.
And an emotional component, yeah.
So when you smoke a cigar, you have an emotional component to it. Brings there's a certain emotion that makes you choose a type of cigar.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm in the mood for this cigar. I'm feeling like I had a hard day. I want, I want a cigar that's burning a little longer, that may be a little richer,
Yeah.
Or, you know what, I'm just right now, I'm about to eat.
Yeah.
I'm emotionally feeling a little peckish, but I don't want a
cigar.
cigar that's just going to kind of blow my appetite.
Yeah.
So I think there's an emotional component to appreciating moments in life, and cigar is certainly a part of that.
Yeah.
And I think that, and this is what I always say, I feel like in any artistic endeavor, there's a component, an emotional component that plays such an important role that we get back to the humanism, get back to humans.
Yeah.
Humans have emotions that are often they're not rational sometimes. They just pop around and
Anyone that's married knows that that's the case.
The what?
Anyone that's married knows.
Yeah, everyone that's married, yeah.
Well, we're smoking two interesting cigars, talking about kind of time of day. So it's relatively early here in France. And the cigar that you're smoking is interesting because
I'm really enjoying
this is what you would call a house-rolled cigar that I picked up just 2 weeks ago in Havana from the Commodore Hotel, where they have a beautiful little hidden lounge I'd never known about. Despite all my travel to Cuba, I discovered this for the first time. It's run by an all-female staff, and they have a retired torcedor that rolls custom house roll cigars. And so you're smoking one called the Johnny. And what's interesting about this is it's a 38 ring gauge, nice and small, slender, long, but it has no ligero in it. So ligero is the strongest leaf, right? That gives it kind of the strength in the body. That in a nice evening cigar, you want something that's got, it's like a Burgundy, or Bordeaux. I get it.
Bordeaux, probably.
But this is like the Burgundy wine. This is like a nice light red wine, and it's beautiful. And you can pick these up at the Commodore Hotel.
Well, look, I'm enjoying the cigar. It's very balanced. It's got a great draw. Now you're going to have to explain me, but the heat is excellent.
Yeah.
And
combustion.
it is,
The combustion.
The combustion, thank you. I got to learn these. See, I'm not a connoisseur, guys. I'm an appreciator. But this is burning just perfectly.
Yeah.
And this is perfect with the weather. Right now, it's about 70 degrees.
Yeah.
We're out here and just had a nice coffee, and this is really
perfect morning time cigar.
And it's just very, very balanced. It's got the nice flavor profile. It's what would you call this? A medium body?
Yeah, I would say this is a medium to light. Really, by
medium
Cuban
to light,
cigars,
but it's
medium to
perfect
light.
for the morning. And one thing I do remember going to Cuba, which I thought was, this is when Cuba just separates itself from the rest of the world. I mean, people were just smoking throughout the day. They had their breakfast cigar, they had their lunch cigar, and they had their, their evening, late night cigar.
Yeah, could have been your company also.
It could have been a couple, but I'm telling you, I never thought that I would enjoy a cigar in the morning. It just seems kind of a little, weird.
Yeah.
I always had this idea of smoking cigars at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But there is definitely, how would I say, a role for the cigar in your morning activities, and this is definitely one of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. There's so many different vitolas, so many different shapes and sizes, so many different blends. And, whenever you kind of pass the threshold of being an occasional cigar smoker, I mean, if all you do is smoke a random cigar and maybe, whenever we first started smoking, Richard, stretching back over a decade ago, it was primarily at night after dinner, right? And so what did we smoke? We smoked big cigars, double
Big
Coronas,
cigars.
Partagas Lusitanas,
Yes.
I mean, full-bodied, long, because, we'd eaten, we had food in our stomach, and, by that point, maybe we were drinking a scotch whenever we were younger or a bourbon now, and we wanted something long. But, once you evolve past that and you start smoking maybe different times of days, it allows you to begin experimenting with different vitolas and different blends. So in the morning, I would never smoke a big cigar like that in the morning. No. Certainly not a full-bodied heavy cigar. Something that is thinner in its ring gauge, allows it to be longer, with the same amount of tobacco, which allows for a cooler temperature of the smoke, and a slightly lighter body blend. It's perfect for the morning over a coffee.
I would also add, and this is, for the people who are trying to learn how to smoke cigars. So, retro inhaling is.
When did you learn how to retrohale?
Well,
I don't remember when that point was for you. But,
unfortunately,
but that's advanced.
Smoking is not very. It's not a foreign thing for me. I lived in France, and of course, smoked cigarettes. And when I started smoking cigars, I was always told, "Hey, it just stays in your mouth. You blow it out." And then someone said, "Well, you need a retro inhale cigar smoking." And I'm like, "What does that mean?" And it's like what I used to do with cigarette smoking. You basically you express your smoke inside your mouth through your nose.
Yeah.
And it changes the complete experience of cigar smoking. It increases your sensory awareness of the flavor profile of the cigars. And I would just say that if you're going to learn how to smoke a cigar, learn how to smoke a light cigar, because you're going to learn how to retro inhale. And so this is retro inhaling for guys who want to know. We've been doing it. So and it comes out of your nose.
But without going into your lungs.
Without going into your lungs. You do not want cigars in your lungs. Yeah. But when you put it in your mouth, you're probably getting about 40% of the flavor profile. Your palate, obviously. Yeah. But then when it goes through the nose, your olfactory nerves are just grabbing all the
nuance.
kind of the nuances. Yeah. And that is where you get that appreciation for cigar smoking. And I would say that for guys who are starting out their experience in cigar smoking, probably start with a light cigar, because retro inhaling will more than tickle your nasal passages.
That's right.
This one's a perfect one. This one's easy. You just and when you're starting out, your nose is just just understanding what this is. Yeah. And then it gets used to it, and you could probably bulk up on the type of cigars. Yeah. But retro inhaling is an absolute key to understanding cigar. Yeah. And in fact, you and I were in London.
Unlocking the bonus level. Well, we were in London at number 6 Cavendish with AJ Patel, who is
exactly.
He has a rule with his staff. I mean, AJ is very generous with his staff in terms
amazing.
of smoking with them, right? But he has a rule that he will not give a member of the staff a vintage cigar until they've demonstrated that they can retrohale.
Yep.
And the reason is because, especially an older cigar that has even more subtlety and nuance to the flavor, it is impossible
Yeah.
to fully appreciate and understand that if you're not retrohaling.
That's right. And so just specifics about retroinhaling, I was just thinking about it, is like you have your oropharynx. So this is where you just kind of put it into your mouth. Your tongue is blocking the smoke from going into, well, either passages, your lungs, and it naturally is blocking the nasopharynx, okay? So your tongue is actually at the roof of the palate of the mouth. Then the second stage is where you take the smoke and you go into the nasopharynx, and your tongue blocks it from going back into the mouth. Where there, that smoke is actually now in the area of the olfactory system.
Yeah.
And once you enjoy that, which is probably a couple of seconds, see, you're in the mouth, and then it blocks, you just push it out. That is where you really learn. That's really the retro inhalation.
Retrohaling.
Retrohaling. And I'll always remember, was it AJ Patel?
Yeah.
AJ Patel brought these real, I think, prized cigars. And we had, a couple of people who were in our group, and they were just not retroinhaling. And that for him was just anathema. It was, you're basically wasting.
Yeah.
It's akin to someone who is taking a shot of a beautiful Burgundy, just, and then basically does not allow it to really go around the mouth and into the areas where you appreciate the nuances. And I think it actually kind of bothered him, I remember.
Yeah.
But I now understand why, you know. You're wasting that cigar, and I could give you a junky cigar, and you'll be just fine. You're having a, so.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there's nothing, going back to the, kind of the adage that sharing one's passions is the greatest luxury in life, but, something you're passionate about, sharing it with someone and having them, disrespect it or defile it is like, it's upsetting.
It is.
And especially Cuban cigars are so hard to come by. I increasingly scrutinize those with whom I share my Cubans with, because you don't want to waste a great Cuban cigar on someone that, would be happy, gnawing on anything.
Yep. Don't get me started. It's the same thing with wine appreciation.
Yeah.
You can kind of pick out the guys, and they don't have to be connoisseurs. In fact, I would even say the opposite. A lot of times, the non-connoisseurs, the guys who know how to read things using, their palate, are the ones that are going to probably appreciate that wine more. And those are some of the best people to be sharing something.
Yeah.
It's all about sharing. And if you can't share the experience, then you're wasting time.
But I think to your point, though, I think, connoisseurship is not a prerequisite, right? So, to say, I'm only going to share my best wine with the people that are really into wine, I think kind of misses the joy.
Absolutely.
But what is important is sharing it, and I think what in some ways makes it even more enjoyable to share is sharing with someone maybe that hasn't, drunk wine at that level, but is able to at least, participate and experience and consume that in a way that allows them to fully appreciate what it is. And I think, one of the things I've enjoyed, with you and with our other friends in Dallas that enjoy cigars is whenever you give them a great cigar. Yeah. I remember the first time you had your first Trinidad Fundadora, which is like a unicorn of a cigar.
Yeah.
You were blown away.
I was blown away.
I probably enjoyed you smoking that more than I would have enjoyed smoking myself, because I saw how much pleasure and enjoyment that brought you. And with wine or with anything that we share, seeing it properly enjoyed, I think is a great great experience.
And the other thing I might add, it's the next day. Now that's something you're going to have to explain to me, and maybe I just haven't had great New World cigars, but it's like wine. It's like a French wine. You drink quite a bit of it, the day before, and the next day you wake up without a hangover.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it's about this cigar hangover, but they're just Cuban cigars don't give you that hangover, that cigar taste that you have that's just nasty in the morning.
Next morning,
There is just something so clean about a Cuban cigar. In fact, you really destroyed my how would I say, my cigar,
your cigar.
You introduced me to Cuban cigars, and and now I can't smoke anything else. It just, and I think there was one night we hung out and called you up, and you just had a couple of really great cigars from another country.
Yeah.
And
you were sick the next day.
And the next day we were just like, man, we just feel like, we just feel terrible. But Cuban cigars, just something about them. You can just smoke all day long, and the next day you feel pretty good. You're like, hey.
It's interesting. I haven't quite deconstructed
And
that
I wonder why. Is it the way they roll? Is it maybe a particular tobacco that just grows on the island? I don't know.
I mean, I'm convinced without knowing scientifically, but I think it's because of the fermentation process. The fermentation process is whenever they're removing the impurities out of the tobacco, those chemicals that are harsh and rough. And Cuba, because it's effectively vertically integrated, right? I mean, the tobacco monopoly, really owns and controls everything from the farm all the way up to, the factories. They're able to, have more control. And then as a product of, again, that the social structure of the government, right, or the country, there's no financial or commercial incentive to really rush things.
Well, we talk about
and
this
so they
all
don't.
the time. Yep.
And in any new world, I mean, I don't know of a single, a brand of other origin, non-Cuban, that is fermenting their own tobacco.
That's right.
They all buy their tobacco fermented from a big multinational conglomerate, that is in charge of that part of the process, right? So they buy their tobacco from other people, they ferment it, that's their specialty, and then they sell it, as a commodity, right, to the factories that then roll that or blend it and roll it into cigars. So the cigar factory has no control over the fermentation process, right? And the multinational, conglomerate, which is probably a public entity that's traded, what are they trying to do? They're trying to increase their revenues by, turning out as much tobacco as possible. And so I really suspect that there is a difference in the way in which that tobacco is fermented that might not allow it to take its full time. And that results in tobacco that still has some of these residual impurities that haven't been fermented out. And whenever you smoke it, I describe it as like, a wine that's too tight, a wine that hasn't been allowed to either air or age, it's too tannic. You drink it and it's like your mouth just like, grips.
So we're now getting to a very big subject of creating a product, right? If you are a cigar maker and you're outsourcing every part, or at least a large part of what makes a cigar amazing, then you're going to naturally have a cigar that is, I'm going to use the word Brazilian, where it's a pastiche of different things.
Yeah.
But there is probably, just like in winemaking, a particular way to, like you say, what was the word you used?
Ferment.
To ferment. To ferment. Not every type of cigar is fermented the same way.
Yeah, no.
If you roll it a certain way, you use a certain type of tobacco, there's all sorts. There's probably a perfect type of fermentation of the leaves that leads to that final product. But if it's not integrated, you're probably going to have a very uneven cigar.
Yeah.
And this is kind of where the rubber hits the road. What's better? To make a quick profit and be entrepreneurial with cigar making, or do you kind of stay to your guns, so to speak, and vertically integrate every aspect of it? You are controlling it is in-house, or at least close to in-house, and that the people who are actually doing the fermentation are the guys maybe who are involved in smoking that final product, and they're like, you know what? This is not, there's something off here, and I'm going to kind of tweak it a little bit. We all know that tobacco doesn't grow the same way. It's like a grape.
Yeah.
Every year the grape's going to be a little different. You're going to have to tweak the way you, pick the tobacco leaves, the way you ferment, and I bet you there's a lot more control. And for that final product.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank God for Cuba, guys.
I know. Well, viva la Cuba.
If we didn't have Cuba, I don't think we would have great cigars.
No. I mean, I think that, Cuba, it's amazing, for being a tiny little island in the Caribbean, there's probably not a corner of the earth that doesn't know Cuba. And what it is that they know Cuba for is one thing, is their cigars.
And I'll agree with you. I never understood this whole Cuban thing until I went to Cuba. I'm like, okay, now I get it.
Yeah.
And it's thankful we have countries out there that keep the standards alive.
And there's nothing worse than, it's like you smoke the wrong cigar, you almost feel like you're dead.
You smoke the wrong cigar, it ruins your day.
Yeah, and your morning.
And your morning.
Well, Richard, this has been great. We've had a lot of great cigars so far here at the Manoir. Where better to enjoy it than in this beautiful, setting? Great cigars, great company, and a beautiful place. That's the trifecta.
It is.
And I think this week we've been enjoying it, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
We've got some more cigars being delivered today. I think Dominique London,
love it.
Place a little order. We're going to be replenished, and we'll have a few more to enjoy throughout the rest of this trip. Thanks for having us. Anyone that's interested in the Manoir, they can find it on Airbnb?
They can find it on Airbnb. We have a website, Manoir La Ville Durand, and this is the name of this place is La Ville Durand Manoir, and located right next to Saint-Brieuc, Étape-sur-Mer, and just a beautiful area where a lot of people don't know, even in France. And it's a little piece of heaven here, and we just enjoy it. This is. And
one of the great things is, for those of us escaping the Texas heat in the summertime, Brittany offers a nice, cool weather. It's almost like Colorado here. Whereas if we were in the Côte d'Azur, it'd still be hot.
You'd be just sweating it out and saying, "Why am I here?" with about a million other people who are asking themselves the same question. And here we are, just relaxing, the most beautiful. Listen to the birds. Butterflies everywhere, bees. This is what we all dream of, going back to, back to the source.
Mm-hmm. Well, Richard, thank you again.
Thank you.
And this has been great. And,
thank you.
Many more great conversations.
Absolutely.
Here in Brittany.
And elsewhere, maybe.
Yeah. In Paris, too. We're going to Paris this weekend.
Paris this weekend. Yep.
Yeah, you'll get to smoke a cigar at my favorite place to smoke a cigar on the earth on Sunday. So it'll be a great few days for us. Well, Richard, thank you. This has been fantastic. And many more great cigars.
Thank you. Thank you for the cigar.